name is Jessica Holyfield, and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we are here checking out G-Dragon's Power, the dance practice. I wasn't expecting this really at all, just because of how the choreo was structured in the performance version, so I'm really happy that we get to take a look at this, and I also hope to be able to do a JESS take as well, which makes me very excited to see what this is going to be in structure, as well as their fits and overall vibe. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. They're simulating it like how Big Bang used to do their dance practices in that black and white. Come on now. Yeah. Yee, yeah. Little crisscross on that. Hey. Love the taps on that. That's fun. That right there is dope. It's a good add-on. Simple and effective. Let's go. Okay, yeah. I like the pull that we have one of our dancers do on that stage right side. Yeah. I'm assuming there's a mirror on this side that we're looking at. Yeah. And the add-on, instead of it being from the corner, they went out to in. Let's go. Nice. Really fun way to get into an inverted V. Let's go. Ah, okay. So when he stomps, that's when that happens. It's actually, I'm kind of glad they did that, or that they kept that in, so we could see how that happened, because I was so curious as to how they got everybody to kind of stay in the vibe post-sound, which is kind of cool. Okay, let's go from the top. Firstly, I mean, I already kind of pointed it out. This reminds me so much of, like, every Big Bang dance practice that exists. It's that black and white. It's not, I mean, I'm not going to look at synchronicity here. That's not the point. It's never the point when you see a G-Dragon affiliated track. I really like it. It's simple. Simple doesn't mean inherently easy, especially if this is not a pocket you're used to exploring as a mover, but it is very fun to kind of see how they set it up in structure, where you see a lot of dynamics kind of separate and make it redigestible and nice and captivating throughout. So here we go. Everyone's already starting. It's symmetrical, but in different directions, right? So we got a couple people going one way, others. So it feels like we're making a little circle with our formation, and then we have G-Dragon in the center. So I mean, it's not inherently like 100% symmetrical, but I would give it a really good balance. It's balanced, very nice, easy to appreciate. I love this little head, little knock that's going on with the head with two of our dancers right there. I do know there's a heavy, there's like the amount of Street Fighter influence in all this is aggressive. So many people involved, and I loved it. We're just gonna blanket. We love everybody involved on this. It's very fitting and such a fantastic way to get G-Dragon back in it. We're here for it. So I like the little extra bounce on it as they're stepping on tempo. I like the clap to give a subtle level change on that. Subtle, not meaning, I mean, the level is aggressive by nature, but the subtle transition to get them from low to high is really nice. I like just the clap. And then from there, everybody is either reverted back to their spot, or I just really like the fact that we have that space ready to go. He has his arm shot up in center, then we have everybody nice and integrating our two that we're just knocking their head back. They're right back in the formation, not really moving, and I like the bounce and how we're just creating a nice ISO with that rib going towards the outside to rock it and rebound it. Really fun. And they come up. I like the clean coming up, and then we body roll with tension to come right back up on that, and then we go da-da-da in the house, boom in the house. And I like how they take the arms, do a nice little just bring up on that, and then we make it feel like a little shimmy. It's a vibe. Now I prefer a fixed cam, in my humble opinion. I wish this was a fixed cam, but whatever. I'm just glad this exists so we can actually see the choreo without all the glitches and stuff. It's really cool to see that in the performance version, but I like the fact that we have a lot of formations and structures in it. It's cool. It's a vibe. So how they cut it in, it is a bit glitchy. It was just very interesting in how it was. I don't know if it was rendered incorrectly or what, but whatever. So I like just the switch up on the arms is really nice, and they're rocking out to their respective outsides to create a nice pathway for GD as he goes forward. He moves forward, ta-da-da-da-da, and so we have the power. So they were just doing some subtlety with a little hat ISO on it. They could integrate some form of a foot, but who freaking cares? And then they do a little knock down a little bit lower, subtle head ISO, and then they drop the whole body versus just the head. Head already got us familiar with that dynamic. Then we let the body get involved, and it goes step, step, and then we come right back up. I like the cross on the arms. Come on now. A little pick up with the swing, so we're tracing those arms, bringing them up right there to the shoulder, and I like how we're picking up the legs as well for that. So there goes hit to the other side, and then we rotate, holding it, and then we knock it on the other side. Really cool. And so we do it the same on both sides. So this is actually a really good type of choreo where it's on the simpler side. I would give it intermediate tops. This is not a heavily advanced routine, even with the dynamics involved, and that's okay. I don't think it needs to be that for a multitude of reasons I already kind of talked about in the performance version. Just for GD as a person, and one thing that you can kind of simulate with that is whenever you see choreo or sequence of movement that is repeated on both sides. So for me, I think this is a really good choreo to learn. If you want to get better at these types of sequences, learn choreos like this, the beginner intermediate route, because you're training it on both sides, so your body is going to be more balanced in the exposure of that movement. So I like choreos like this, especially for how it's being phrased. It's really nice. And I like that we're pushing it and using the push to create that counter push, or like that balance from what's going on with the arms, with the body, and using that to move over. I don't even think we're just not even a pas de bourrée or anything like that. Well, I mean, maybe. No, we're just crossing behind all 4 times, essentially, is what we're doing here. Yeah, and we hit it over. I like the rotation. Pushing, and we push. Then we rotate. So it's the same body, same legs, but it's different arms. Really fun. And then all the receipts, I like the high shoulders on that. And it goes, I got the power. So it's all on the shoulders, knock it forward. A lot of knockings, it's just a lot of this kind of texture that you're seeing in these choices. It's a vibe, man. And as it should be. Little pick up on the feet. All the dancers are vibing it up with GD. GD, it looks like he's making his own just personality choices. He doesn't look incompetent whatsoever. Quite the opposite. He's like, hey, welcome to our show. Glad you could make it. And it also looks like some of our dancers are wearing the Peace -1 shoes. I think those look like one of those that he has. I mean, I might as well. I mean, he has a whole fashion brand that I've been trying to get my hands on a pair of his shoes for a long time. Will I ever? I don't know. If they have arch support, maybe. But anyway, so I like how they hit it in the back. I like how we have a little extra accent going on off the shoulder on that. We throw it down. I like the little pickup on the leg is nice. And then we have a little bounce, bounce, bounce to travel it across. Come on now. And it goes, yeah, yeah. So we have a nice little accent with the chest to go and press it to the back. So they're nice and frozen, so he has this moment. It's like he could have millied it, so at least the setup felt very conversational in that regard. It's really cool. And then they take it, he throws it, tosses it up, signals the dancers to shoot up and have their moment. So they're taking the arms, they go out, over, and so they're adding this little just upwards, oh my gosh, to my English, do better. Okay, so we're swinging that arm, or we're creating tension in the hand, so it has more of a rigidness in the lift of the arms on that, so it goes up, up, so it's not staccato, it's not sticking, it's rebounding, but there's engagement in the arms as that happens, so it feels more full because it is, which is really nice. And then we take it up, boom, and we let it kind of slow key fixed point, meaning it's kind of stuck in the space as we swing it down, so we have some sense of structure in that upper level that we're seeing there. And then you have GD right there catering just his own anticlimactic movement, which is great. I always like to talk about that. Whenever you have like a textbook, everyone's going really full except for one person, you naturally want to look at that person, and vice versa. When everyone's really chill and you have one person really full out, you're going to want to look at them. That can work against a group whenever, let's say, they have a main dancer and they're not supposed to be featured in that moment and they're going too big. That can work against the group. Or it can really look forward to that kind of moment where you're like, I can really clearly see my feature because of how full they're going compared to everybody else. And this is a good case of that. GD is going very conversational, very chill, and the dancers are creating a really nice contrast in their dynamic, which is really fun. And I like they knock it through, and then they have their shoulder and they're using it to swing with the accent. And I like the hips getting involved on that too. More full body, but keeping that arm up at the top. They're kind of letting it kind of give a little bit, but not enough to where it's as big as that swing that we're seeing. It's cool. It's natural. So then we have GD travel over. So it's a really good transition. We didn't basket run at all. We used our grooves and we used our movement to get us transition. And I love choreos like that because it keeps you engaged the whole time, and the transitions matter as much as your focal points. Love that. So they go slide, they go down, boom, they go high and down. So this little, there's just a little moment, nice and high. They drop it, high, drop it. And I love the little taps on this. So we got the tripod camera over here. Ending up doing a little head ISO. It's so fun. So we have the dancers nice and low. So they were really low, and then they've elevated their lower half up a little bit so they can clearly get back up a little bit more. Come on now. So the dig on that, where they're pushing their body in opposition of that leg, I like the contrast there. Then they bring it back up. That's a really nice way to go from a crouching position to a standing position, which is what we end up seeing here. Really nice. I like the head. But actually, I think it's a boom, boom, boom. They syncopated on that bass, but let's look. Let's double check. Yeah, pop and stock and da. So they're going right there. They're doing not really a full wordplay, but they're going off of his tone and how he is and how he's saying it. So I really like it whenever we get to see that come out. That's cool. And they knock it up, and I like that they all turn to use that as a transition. He's nice and chill to the front. He goes, I don't give a sh. So for me, having choreo where it gives that nonchalant, I really could care less about your opinion. Hey, I can celebrate that all day long, and especially like that actually gives more grace into what you're watching whenever they're not going super clean too. So that's really dope. So they have the arms. So he goes crossover and he's knocking it back. So they have their arm and then they actually match it, but it's the opposite arm for them. So I like that Gigi reversed it, but it's still complementary to what the dancers do. So I like the little rock. So they do a little swim. This is another fixed point. It matches what we ended up seeing earlier, right? But that was a different level. Here, it's more across, and they're using it to transition over to that stage right side, which is cool. In this part, this is a really nice basic add-on coming from the corner versus the front. Reason why we know that is because how this is shot is a tripod shot off the corner, just like the other side where they did the taps. So I love that. GD starts it. He rotates his arms. Doesn't that remind you of that step? And they cross back and then to the front, and they do that with the pull and then it's more of a push, and then they rotate, right? So I like that we have the rotation here. And so yeah, they go nice little pickup with the foot on that, funning. It's just very fun, and I like the little head nods too. Hey, it's just, I mean, these moves. This is probably a really dope gig to have. I mean, either as a director, choreographer, whatever, where it's like you're not being asked to create a composition that's crew choreo complex like a lot of Gen 5 boy groups do. This really is tying into the beautiful integrity of what made Gen 2 so freaking cool, was that most idol groups were not known for choreography. It was not the type priority like it is nowadays. And so I as a choreographer can respect the beauty of many facets of the generation, and this is nostalgic for me as somebody who was a very active Gen 2 fan of the YG artists. So this is really fun. And I like the little body roll on that, and then you have one of your dancers kind of low-key go the opposite way, so I was clocking him more so there than GD, because GD matched the rest of the dancers, but it's such a subtle thing, I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of things. Then you have the power, boom, and I like the extra accent with the chest pushing forward on that. And then they're using the hips on that too. So once again, there's just a lot of chest and hips that are creating a fullness in the torso with the arms to make it feel very chill but powerful. I love that. Yeah, and then we're swinging it into an actual like strongman situation, which is super cool. I like that he swings it. Literally, I feel like he learned the choreo and he's deviating whenever he wants. Love it. I love that. So fun. They trot, 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 which is cool. They go to the inside, then they rock it more so to neutral than to the other side, so it's not equal. It goes inside, middle, inside, middle. Normally you see people go inside, outside. So I like the fact that we have it not cut off, but it's a little bit more neutral and kind of centered, which is really dope. And then you have the subtlety. He says shout it, right? Or shut it, maybe. Anyway, either of those, it caters to the mouth when you shut it, or when you shout it, it comes from here, right? So I like the fact that we have it covering the mouth in some way in that moment. I like the power. They use the back, and the back is one of those huge muscle groups that can really advocate a lot of power to your extremities. I talk about it a lot, especially when you see people do whacking. That's a huge thing that gets used, because if you use your arm, it can really you can run out of steam, and it makes you inconsistent in your range choices and in your positioning long term, especially when you're doing choreography with a group. So that's like a really interesting thing there. But I like the subtlety on this with the pull. Really nice. We go throw, throw, and then we have our arms pulled up. Some are over the eyes, some on the forehead. I think part of that may have to do with if they're in a ball cap. For me, it'd be really hard for me to put it over my eyes because of how this sits, so I'd put it above. But then you got GD doing whatever he freaking wants. So, gotta be me. So they do the step. So no, that's a repeated lower half, but it's a different swing. So that's a really interesting thing about this. There's a lot of familiarity, and it's kind of like, here's your basic footworks that you're seeing. Here's your basic formations and basic dynamics. So we're just gonna sit here and then we're just going to change out what happens in the upper body, or we're going to change out what happens in the lower body. So we have a big family of choreography or vocabulary, but it's not super innovative where it's like, this is the most complicated, most incredible routine I've seen in my life. No, but I think it's very fitting for what this is, and that's what I can get on board with for sure. And I like the pull. Do you see that whenever they walk? And I like how it's low-key like the most aggressive shopping cart or the most vibey shopping cart in the world with the pull, the sternum. Come on now. And then they rotate. Boom, got the power. We're knocking the shoulders forward, and then we pull it up. Notice that lift of the leg. It's definitely one of these moves. We're seeing so much of that. Could that be just one of those fingerprints of GD as a person? Oh, there's always a chance of that. And then we go power, and we double it over on that right side. Then they take the arm up, and they throw it. And I like that only 2 of them opted for that. I think it's my 2 right outside of GD to create some separation between GD and the other dancers who are also doing it with him. I like that choice. And they go do a nice little ski run before they transition. And then they go high, and then look at the levels. So I like that we condensed the formation. We got a V pretty much going on with the space in the middle. We got an inside V going on with GD and 2 other dancers. And then I like that we also have levels represented. So you got your front 2 are nice and low, and then you have your middle a little bit lower than your back people. Back people are all the way up, which is always really, really nice to see there. And then right here, I like just everyone's getting to party their own way. I have a feeling part of this was, okay, we want to make sure everyone's direction is low-key the same way, and your dynamic is kind of the same way, or energy output is similar, but everyone can make their own choice. So everyone's kind of going pretty rigid in their choices, going from side to side, but I'm on board with it. It looks really cool. And I like the lean voix. Is also really nice there. Party, they're looking around, very communal, right? Very collaborative. It's really dope. And then his pull, I love that moment. The camera definitely helped with that, but I really don't think they needed it. This could have looked totally fine as a fixed cam, and I really, I always love seeing those, like I've mentioned many a times, but I liked being able to appreciate that moment. I'm glad that was in shot so we could see it, because that one pull really made it feel different than that first time they did a little hold sustain and then they knocked back into it, right? So I like that girl. So we do a little hop over. It's a setup similar to a Bismarcky, but they're not doing a Bismarcky. So Bismarcky is one of these bad boys right here. But so they're hopping, boom, and they're having a little just party moment. So we can call that like a heavy Bismarcky variant, if that, but also go be curious. If you notice that move and it feels familiar, go type it in and do your research too. And I would love to hear the conversation of that, if that reminded you of something else. Come on now, let's go. And I like the little heel toe on that. So we're doing a little heel toe and we're knocking it on the other side, which is really fun. I like the little toe tap, so the opposition on the torso. So if you look, we're not keeping our body neutral as we're doing the tap. Notice what the torso's doing. It's going in opposition, creating a really nice line. I love seeing when that happens. It feels it just looks more full, right? Because it is. Come on now. Yep. And look what they did. They went from that V, and then they spread it out, through content. God, I love it. And then they end up turning directly to the inside, but how they set up that formation and those dynamics before, this was one of the cleanest transitions you could see, because you had everybody in the front, but then as they were partying or having their moment, it was something we were saturated in, not in a boring way, but in a, this is a really cool thing. And you're looking at different things outside of just formation change. You're looking at how the vibes and dynamics and textures are being used as a group. So I liked that they kind of distracted us through the usage of personality and texture from us actually seeing them transition. That's really fun. That's like a little magician move they did. That's cool. So I like the, just with the shoulder, or they're just accenting with the arms behind them. Oh, hold on. That's hard to catch. Hold on, let me go back. Let's look. Yeah, it definitely feels like we're doing a Dougie all to the same side, 1 and 2, and then we turn over the shoulder, and then we do it to the outside just once, so it goes 2 times, and then 1 time we come up, and then they hit, yeah, so this is like a Dougie, and they end up, so they go 2 Dougies inside, 1 Dougie outside, and then they switch inside, outside, and then they transition. Such a really good formation. That's just a great content setup, and they use it to travel. Come on! And then we have it over, now we're over using this on the stage left side. So they're taking the leg to the back. Yeah, so they're doing it 4 times too. Making that not look awkward takes skill. They all look great. They could look super weird doing this and holding this for 4 counts. They look like they're freaking living in it, in a bag of chips. Come on now. And with nice little steps as we move to our next spot. This part is like, I don't give it. And I love how they get low. And they hold and out. That's petty. I love it. It's a no. I love it. GD stays up. He's like, why should I go down? That's your job. That's literally what it feels like. They go to the other side. And instead of doing the second side, they drop, or they go right there in the center. So that was really fun. Now this is an add-on. So notice that it's the same section. They're doing an add-on dynamic, meaning that you have a person or a group of people, and then an add-on, you add on more people at the same time in which these individuals are doing a particular section of the choreo. So I love seeing that. That does, some people do get that confused with a canon. They get it confused with a ripple, something along those lines. That this is considered an add-on. So I like the fact that we have our 2 coming from the outside in comparison to the corner that we saw the first time. That's a really good just idea of going from, we're just changing the formation and changing the camera angle. That's where the camera angles really worked in their favor here, is just that particular vibe right there. So fun. So they come up. I like they take it, little pot of beret, but it's mirrored, which I like. So it's an add-on. It's in the same choreo, but it's mirrored, meaning if I put this line here, whatever they do over here, they're going to do over here around the same degree of depth or people. So that's really cool. We love that. So they're mirroring it, and it is add-on, and then they had 2 more join in, and then you had 2 not be a part of the add-on, which normally I see everybody join and then they move on. So I thought that was an interesting choice, to where they only did 3 out of 4 people in the add-on. Cool. So they go in, they go down, and then they do a little speed change. He comes up. Notice he goes faster than everybody else. Even though the camera's doing, this, that, and the other, you can see enough. GD's moving a lot. That's a good example of when people are absent in movement and somebody else is really, really full and fast, you're going to clock them. So that's a really cool shot. That probably would have looked just as cool in the fixed cam. And then you have this right here. It does feel like it's not even a shimmy. It's just, we're doing a da-da-da-da-da. Let me see your Tootsie Roll. It feels like that, but heavy, heavy hybrid or inspired, right? So we're knocking it. Power, 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 power. It's just fun. Instead of just doing like a strong man, we're still creating that fist and that strong like accent, and we're kind of saturated or inspired by that anyway. So we're going to affiliate this with strong because of the fist, right? So we're packing a punch, which is dope. And they're using that to get into an inverted V. So whenever I say that, a V would be kind of what we've seen throughout the routine. That's a V. An inverted one would of course be that. I've heard it called many other things. That's what I call it, and some of my colleagues as well. That's fine. I hope that makes sense. But he's in the center. I like the outlier. She's fine. And if you notice, GD is a solo artist, and so normally you will see dancers be in these kinds of contexts when you see them do like music shows or concerts. Even numbers work really well because it's such a great way to maintain symmetry, which is what you see, balance, but still maintain your 1-point feature. Now, whenever you have, let's say, a duo, normally a lot of times you would see an even number even with your dancers. Like that's just kind of a really good safe number Very rarely will an odd number be used a lot of times, but that's also depends on just what the creative director or what the concept calls for. Sometimes an odd number works really great in some lens, but it's just very fascinating to talk about, because in the K-pop sense of things, even number dancers normally work really, really well, or just regular music artists, but like dance crews, odd numbers tend to be more favorable because you can create outliers in people, if that makes sense. It's a very fascinating thing to kind of bring up. But anyway, I like the subtlety. So we're rocking on the opposite side of the arm that we're pressing out. It just makes it look bigger, but still keeping it subtle. I like that. And it goes boom, shout out. So I like the little accent with the arm. And then we go power, and we step in. Then we go a much bigger step out. He has this moment, nice and subtle. They go, yeah, hey, I like the slide in there. And then party, gonna be me. And then I step over. And then there's your Dougie. We've seen that Dougie before. We saw that in the circle, right? We broke that whole thing down, the inside, outside, and they ended up doubling it up. Here, or double up timing. Here, it's all in a straight line. It could be straighter, but who freaking cares? He doesn't give a sh. You know, it's fun. And then bring it in. And then we have the subtlety. Power. The power, power. And they're just knocking it with the hips. I like it. This can be deceivingly pretty tiring. Even though the content is simple in structure, you may accidentally get yourself carried away, and you can be a little bit exhausted by the end of it. When you really go hard and you're trying to be conversational, gimmicky, and fun, that can be tiring because you can't let it look like you're tired. That's the hard part about gregarious or like really positive vibed routines in general, is that normally whenever you're tired, that can look a little bit more downcast and angsty, which can help better in the more neurotic or negative based kind of tracks. But with the more gregarious, we're here for it. Like I like it, and some of them don't look tired, but I can see them do that. It's also the equivalence of if you're like having a drink, and let's say it's a fruity drink versus like liquor. The fruity drink could potentially be more dangerous, right? Because you can't taste the alcohol, right? In comparison to like if you're taking a shot. I don't know. I don't really drink that much, so I couldn't really tell you, but that's kind of what I was thinking about there too. But you know, you never know. Ooh, and then you see what happened? They went from a straight line, and then they ended up turning it into groupings of threes. So, I mean, that's the beauty. That's the power of an odd number, baby. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. Love it. And I love how seamless that was in the accent with the bass. That's cool. And then they use a freaking angle to make it nice and varied. That's cool. And he doesn't have to do it. I love that he's literally like, I'm gonna mark it, because he can. Like, whatever. And so they have it where you have variety of levels in the angles of the arms. And then they all go and condense it. Instead of it being a 3-3-3, you have a 2-2 solo. So I love that, because now it feels like instead of it being three separate groups, it's now two groups that are mirrored with a solo in the center. And it goes, yeah, yeah. So they go high, low, and it goes the power, power. And that's your popcorn, where you got about half of them pop up, the other half pop up. And it goes about the lada. Stomp. Then they jump, and they're partying with a sway. With a sway, with a sway, let's wipe the haters off all the places. Hey, that's cool. So yeah, in general, I really enjoyed this. This was just fun, and I think that at the end of the day, the fact that G-Dragon has this release like less than a week ago, probably like less than 3 days ago, when I hadn't seen something active from him as a soloist in a long time, like a K-pop contract amount of time with a lot of groups that we've seen, like a whole generation of artists have already existed since the last time he came out with something. So I'm just so happy we get to do this, and the fact that we kept so many things that just make it feel so Gen 2, like that, like the fact that this is in black and white, such a Big Bang thing, right? But man, this was a lot of fun. The power, 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 the power, power, power. I got the power, shout out, shout out, shout